Hey guys and girls, welcome to this week's episode of the B.Invested Birchy podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Birch. This is a show unraveling the truth to the facade of the 21st century. We're now exiting the matrix and waking up to motherfucking reality. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't wake up to the motherfucking reality. And if we go back and jump back into the matrix, you got the blue pill, you got the red pill. So many people will take the blue pill instead of the red pill. And that's why there's so many people that are scraping by, trying to get week to week, paycheck, paycheck, and not having any assets, not understanding how the game is that they're playing and that they're trapped into. And I guess today's episode, I want to talk about the hidden cost of playing by the rules. Yeah, and when I say playing by the rules, is the system is designed to keep us trapped. The system's designed. I was thinking the other day, I was having a heated discussion with my mother, right? She's in her mid-80s, and she loves the doctors, the medical systems, and doesn't believe about the food. And I encourage her to go and look at all the ingredients in her food. And I quizzed her, and I said to her, think about it this way, right? The same people own the food company that owns the medicine company. So imagine if the food was designed to get you sick, but not sick enough to kill you, but sick enough that you need to go and get some medicine to fix your body back up because you've been eating this food. She goes, no, it wouldn't happen like that. They wouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, let's just question it, right? The questioning of it is the most important part. And a lot of people will go through life without questioning anything. 99% of people are just walking and oblivious to all the attacks that are happening on them on a day-to-day basis. And today, talking about the hidden costs of of playing by the rules or being trapped inside the matrix, there's lots of them. If we can look at health, we can look at medical, we can look at all different things, but today we're just going to purely look at the financial aspect of it. And, what happened in my mother's generation and, to a 50-year-old, a 70-year-old, a 60-year-old, a 80-year-old, a 100-year-old is a different world to what's happening with a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old today. The world is very different. And, you just think, when you were a kid, you used to eat McDonald's chips, right? Your McDonald's chips used to be beef tallow and potatoes, right? And now there's like 20 different ingredients you wouldn't even know what to explain them as well as genetic modified potatoes that are added into the equation. So, you got to look at what happened before isn't what's happening now. And when it comes to finances, the money is not the same money. It might appear as the same money, but it's been genetically modified, just like your food has, to being something different. So if you look through history, and look at what happened with property prices at certain points, I might get my editor to throw up a chart here, and we can go through the chart. If you notice, between the early 1900s to basically the 1950s, property did nothing. It actually did absolutely nothing. And from the 1950s to 1970s, it went up a little bit, and that was off the back of the World War II. And if you look at from the 1970s to like the 1980s, and the 1980s to the 1990s, and the 1990s to 2000 to today, you'll see that these property prices just keep on rising, but they never used to rise. And that's because fundamentally the money that you're buying them with changed, the lending environment changed, and everyone was shortchanged, and they had their wealth stolen due to the central banks that are out there. And, go get a job, get a good grade, go be a good student, whatever. That's a good way to set yourself up for 70 years of enslavement into this system of being a good debt slave, where you're going to work, earning money, paying taxes, and you can never break free. And that's why 99% of people don't break free, is because they don't understand. They don't take the time to go, okay, well, what's really fucking going on here, and how can I, take advantage of this system and be able to make it work for me? Because ultimately, this game, there's people that are benefiting from it, and there's people that aren't, and that's why there's inequality. And the more people that I can help wake up and take the red pill and go on that journey and free themselves from that, then the happier I am. So let's look at the financial system, right? Even the school system, right? The schooling system was only a thing that was in the earliest 20th century, which they established a school, which is an indoctrination camp to send the youth to program them. But in that indoctrination camp of 12 years, they teach you, how to be a good servant to the system that they've designed around you, the monetary system that they've designed around you. They don't teach you about how to build wealth or how to create things. It's all about being an obedient tax slave. So if you had $100 in the year 2000, yes, the same. I don't have a note on me, right? I don't even carry notes anymore. Here I am trapped in this digital illusion of wealth, right? But if we had a $100 note here, right? The $100 note to 2025 today, so it's only 25 years, it only has $50 worth of its value left. So you still think, you could have had the $100 note in your pocket in the year 2000. It could have been a $100 note from 1990, right? And it's still the same $100 note that's traveled throughout time. But what it buys you is very different. And the reason why they'll blame everything else that's out there, but it's really, the inflation, the manipulation of that currency that has let you down. And they'll tell you it's everything else. But, when you break it down, it's inflation and just printing of that currency. So you go and work hard, you save $100. You can listen to your parents, which had a different money, or you can listen to other people or see what's happening. Just educate yourself, most importantly, and then realize that money is losing its value every year. Oh, we've only got a 5% inflation this year. Fantastic result, right? So that means that your $100 that you had last year is only going to buy you $95 worth of the stuff that it is this year. And then you only have 3% this year, so then take another 3% off, so you're back down to 92%. So you had $100 in 2023, and now your $100 is only going to buy you $92 worth of stuff in the groceries. So I think getting your head around the foundations being fraudulent from the start, then you can wake up and go, fuck, what are the other options? How can we make this work for you? So a lot of people go and think, okay, saving money is the key. And people think that debt is bad, right? But when you realize that if I borrowed $100 back in 2023 and inflation's gobbled the value of that away now, I can then pay you $92 to give you $100 back. I'm paying you back with a devalued currency. That is where the benefit is, right? And if you can build new cash flow streams where those cash flows are being inflated away and the debt is being devalued, that's how this big Ponzi scheme works. So I think, when we look at debt being created, right? A lot of people I haven't heard anyone really talking about how debt is created out there, right? And the way that it is, let's say I bought a house for $200,000 back in 2000, and I was selling it for $1 million today to someone else. That new first homeowner's coming in, holding their hands. Oh yeah, love, we can paint the house, we can do whatever. They're all excited. But reality is, let's say I've got a $200,000 mortgage. I've got a full loan on the property. The person that's coming into buying it from me, they're not going to the bank. They're not going to pull that $1 million and give it to me as cash. They might, but I doubt it. They're going to have to go to the bank. And the bank will say to them, hey, put down a deposit into the bank. It could be a 10% deposit, a 20% deposit, $100,000, $200,000, whatever, in to buy that property. The bank will then go and get $800,000 or $900,000 and give it to that person, and they get signed a mortgage contract, which is a death contract. If you go back to Latin, that's what it actually stands for. But anyway, with the contract that they get, that becomes the asset. So that person that's buying it for $1 million, their 40 years worth of working life is now attached to that loan. And the bank has them as a security, as well as the fallback position as the property as a security if they don't make the repayments for it. So their position is sitting pretty good. But the bank, this is where the scam works, right? The bank doesn't go out there and pull $1 million out or $900,000 out the back and say, oh, here you go, Mr. First Home Buyer. They go, okay, cool. They go and write a financial instrument like an IOU, and they create another asset, which is the mortgage contract, which they bundle up and go and resell. So the person that is coming in to the table with their $1 million purchase to buy the $200,000 property, it's not that I'm making $800,000. Well, it is, but I've got the ability, because I've got that vehicle being the asset that I'm depleting of or selling on, which will be the last time I can do it when I sell a property. That's why I'm not a big fan of selling properties. That person takes it on, but now they're getting strapped to a bigger debt, and a bigger level of cash, which is just printed out of thin air from the central banks around the world to then keep fueling this system. So understanding of how that works. And I guess, tax. There's always the talking of negative gearing and, the rich get tax benefits and all that sort of stuff. Well, there is tax benefits out there. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the tax system is designed to screw everyone over sideways, right? But if you can take the time to understand, A, how the money works, B, how the system works, C, how inflation works, D, how the tax system works, then you can start going, okay, well, there's all the things laid out in front of me. I can now navigate through this by utilizing all those resources at my disposal to now minimize the amount of theft that becomes from when I do capitalize that $1 million sale, $800,000 profit. How can you try and minimize that? So I guess to the uneducated, and they say they're poor, I'd say the poor would be mentally poor because everyone's got these facilities to their disposal, right? And it's just having the mindset and the knowledge and the game plan to be able to sit at the table and play that game, which makes you more successful or more wealthy in the eyes of a poor person, because the wealthy person has more options. That's why they're given the wealth with. And the money is just really a tool. But I don't want to go too deep in it because I feel like sometimes I could go into like a wild ride of going through the matrix, right? But we've got how the money works side of things, and where people get trapped is they don't understand how inflation works, and they think debt is bad because they don't understand how inflation works, and they don't understand how the money works, and they can't use it to their benefit. You get the flip side of it, which is you go get a safe job, pay off all your debt, right, and go get a nice little comfy job. But then the old mindset was that, your parents got out there and they're going to got a job, which is great. But that industrial revolution time frame has changed as well, right? There's people out there doing fucking flosses on TikTok, making more money than Birchy does from buying properties, right? There's all different ways for you to be able to do things, and it's a different world that we live in today. So are you sitting there in a world where you're saying, okay, I've got to go get a job, I've got to go to university, I've got to go become a doctor, I've got to go become a lawyer, I've got to go do this? Because how many kids, just think about this, when you ask them, what are you going to do when you grow up? And they're like, I'm going to be a doctor. Do you really want to be a doctor? Blood, guts, people coughing on you, shit, all different things happen, right? That's a doctor. The doctor's life isn't really exciting, right? But the doctor's life is they're at the top end of society because they're the one doing the job, but they've had to jump through the university ranks and being, I'm not saying there's any disrespect to a doctor, but I think about it. I think me being a germaphobe, I sit there and think, I don't want to fucking have people coughing on me. You don't go to the doctor and go, oh, doc, how you going? Yeah, I'm doing great, right? People go to the doctors and they're half dead, right? So, I look at the jobs and the situation of job security, because back in the old days, you could have one job. You could have one person in your household work. Imagine how weird this sounds. Now we're in 2025 and just go, if we just went in a time capsule, went back to the year 1995, and you'd see a mum at home with the kids, and you'd see the dad at work working a job, and he could afford a 2-story, 4-bedroom house with a double garage in a suburban area with 800 square meter block of land on the one income. Like, that can't happen, right? We can't even pay our Uber bill for, eating food because we don't even have time to cook food because we've got to work 2 jobs, right? And that's the sort of world that we're trapped into. So the security that one would have had, where they go and get the one job for their household and they spend 30 years in the job, and then the employer looks after them, even down to the super fund, right? Like, I hear a lot of talks about superannuation today and potential changes and stuff like that. Super, when it was introduced, there was a super plan called a defined benefit system. And the defined benefit superannuation works very different, right? So how your super fund works today is it's just like a little bank account, and then money gets put in there each month or each quarter or each half a year, whatever it is that your boss puts in. And then that gets sent off to a financial institution, and then they invest it, take all their fees, all that sort of stuff. But back in the old days, a defined benefit would say, okay, if you're on X amount of income, by the time you hit retirement age, you will get that retirement income for the rest of your life. So it's a guaranteed income. Whatever your last income was is what you're going to get paid out in short, right? And they stripped that so hard, right? They forced everyone into it and they stripped it out. And now it's a system what it is today. And basically, it's just a scam to then force employers to put money into these super funds, which then that gets put as liquidity back into the system and creates liquidity to share markets and infrastructure projects and government borrowings and all that sort of stuff. So, if we went back to the 1980s, it would have seemed like a good thing. Go get a job, stick with your company, get your nice super plan, and life will be pretty good with your one income that'll support the household while the wife stays home with the kids. But that doesn't happen today. So, the rules of the past, you need to think, okay, well, that isn't what I'm presented with. How can you operate and how can you best take advantage of the situations that are around you? So, you can listen to your parents, but they weren't delivered with the same problems that you are. They had their own problems back in the day. But I think, even down to how employers, government rights, workers, fair work, all those sorts of things. A lot of businesses nowadays go for casual or for the gig economy or for, you've got tech, people be able to go, okay, I'm going to log on for 3 hours. I'm going to do some Uber while I'm driving home or while the kids are going to sleep or whatever the case may be. So, there's casual jobs out there. There's big businesses that are failing. I always love watching I don't love watching the news. That's a very bad way of saying it. But I love when I see financial data that's been published via the media and I can break down and follow through, is it correct or is it not? And I'm seeing massive cracks in these very old school systems, right? We've seen Blockbuster Video go broke, right? That was a big business. You could never imagine it, right? Kodak, right? Kodak was the biggest camera maker in the world and they didn't keep up with, technology and they went bust. And you look at like Macca's today, right? Could that be one of the failures of the future? Who knows, right? Hopefully Macca's don't come and sue me for saying all these bad things about them all the time. But what can you do to capitalize and not be trapped by this preconceived idea that your parents may have had or your grandparents had or whatever? Firstly, your savings, they're going to fail you. Just understand that, right? That's the most important thing is your savings. Savings is for losers, right? Your cash is trash. It's worthless. You have $100 today, it would never buy you the same things or the same opportunities as what that $100 will today will ever buy you that again in the future. Just understand that. What do I mean by that? You have $100, you can't buy the same amount of shopping. You can't buy the same shirt. You can't buy the same whatever. There's very few, maybe 1% of things are cheaper today in 2025 than what they were in 2023 or 2022 or 2021 or 2019 or 2018. So understanding that saving is for losers, that's not how you become wealthy. I've never seen a billionaire that goes, yeah, I'm successful, or a millionaire that goes, I'm successful because I saved my way there. In the 1990s, a millionaire would have been like a 10, 20 millionaire today, the amount of things they could have bought. So understand savings is bad, money is bad, debt is not so bad. And I guess ownership of things, right? Like people in the past and our parents and grandparents and whoever's watching this, they say you got to own this, you got to do that, right? We're in a world where a lot of things are disposable, right? I don't know what percentage, maybe we could get it thrown up as a stat on the screen if you're watching it from a video, right? But what percentage of vehicles out there would be owned cash outright? And what percentage would have a lien against them, i.e. a mortgage or a lease or some other sort of financial instrument strapped to them? Because it was only 20 years ago that no one had car loans, right? It was like, why would you have a car loan for? But now everyone's got a car loan. So it's, people are happy to go get a 50 grand loan for their car or a 20 grand loan for their car and pay these stupid interest rates and be trapped to this vehicle that's losing its value. But then suddenly they're too scared to take out debt to buy an investment property that's going to bring him cash flow, or to build himself another 2 or 3 properties in their portfolio. So, get a good relationship with that debt, I think, is very, very important. I think delayed gratification, i.e., people that are working towards building wealth for their future versus working to get things now. And it's a fine line, because I see people doing it tough, but there's always things you can cut out, right? Like, there's always things you can cut out of your budget. I've seen people scrape through on 20 grand a year, 30 grand a year in the current market. Families on like 30 to 40 grand a year household income that make it work. So, when I first started out, I'd never buy even a CD for in a car. There you go. I'm sure I'm aging. I'd buy a CD, put in the car, right? The music wasn't available like it is now, that you'd push a button and it streams through you, whatever. But I would never spend money on things, because I realized that I needed to take all my active income while I'm young and buy assets with it, because I was planning for the future. So then in the future, i.e. today, I've got options, choices, freedoms, and, more things that I can do. And I think, a lot of people are sold this lifestyle, right? We can pick up Instagram and go, oh, look at this reel, this person's baller, this person's got this person's got that. But it doesn't matter what anyone else has got. It's what have you got, right? You can have a cool car, but then you can have enslavement for the next 30, 40 years of your life, and missing out on the best time when your body's young, and, the happiest times that you could have in your life, because when you get to 60, 70 years old, you're like, shit, I want to go do it now. And, you've sold it for cheap thrills, the best time of your life. So I think time freedom is very, very important. Time freedom is the winner. And there's, different ways that you can get yourself out of that trap. For me, property investing was one that I thought wealthy people had property. I want to buy property. I want to be like that. That's what I need to get into. There's all different ways, right? I'm not here talking about making a TikTok, becoming an influencer, using AI, building some bot, trading, using cryptocurrency, none of that sort of stuff. But there's all different options at your disposal. I'm just here talking about my favorite wealth building strategy, which is buying assets, getting debt attached to it. I'm in the process of reviewing my whole portfolio, right? All my properties, right? Since I turned 40, I'm like, maybe I should change a few things. Maybe I've been a bit lazy. I've been a hoarder on my portfolio, right? And I'm sitting there looking at some of my assets that I bought for like 200 grand or 150K 15, 20 years ago, and I only owe 100 grand, 120 grand on them. It's like, I remember when that seemed like a lot of debt, and it's like, now it's worth $1 million. The debt to pay off 100 grand is very easy now, but at the time it seemed like a lot. And I didn't have a good relationship with debt. Otherwise, I'd be sitting here. If I hand on my chest, if I had a really good relationship with debt, I'd be sitting here with thousands of properties and not hundreds of properties like I am with you guys. And the article the other day came out. Shout out to realestate.com for publishing the cool article out there. That article was a conversation I was having with the editor about, I turned 40, I'm pissed off I didn't get to the $1 billion yet, right? And they made it sound like, Birchy's having a sook, he's not a billionaire. But yeah, it's at the time, I could have been there if I had a better relationship, better understanding of how this system worked. And I'm just trying to impart to you guys to get one step better, one step closer to your goal, whatever that might be. And I see that 99% of people are just trapped in this cycle of, and it's not just the trap of going, I've got to have a good job, I've got to have a good car, I've got to have this, I deserve this, or whatever. You've got the pressures from within. You've got your parents going, you shouldn't be getting into debt. You've got all the people that love and care for you, but they don't understand. So there's a lot of noise out there. But once you can cut through that noise and you can create a plan, whether it be a business plan or whether it be an investment plan, the investment plan should be like a business plan where you can go, okay, this is what I need to do. This is my roadmap. This is how I'm going to loosely get there. That's what I think a lot of people are missing. And for me, getting started 20 odd years ago, I had all that noise. I had all the people saying, you're going to fail, you're going to go broke, it's too much debt, why would you do that? You only need one house, whatever. And I always had to sit back, and whenever they say it, I'm like, fuck off. Like, I've got my own thoughts. I'm going to go do what I'm going to do. But I'll always sit there and go, what are they trying to say to me, right? And I'll look at it and go, okay, they're saying that. Because I had clarity on where I need to go, I could easily identify, no, that's rubbish. I'm not going to listen to that advice, and not be sidetracked. And I'd take steps to go to where I need to be because I had that clarity around what I needed to do. And I think a lot of people don't have that clarity. So, I think looking back at the portfolio, right, people are worried about their job and worried about their car, or worried about their house or paying down debt or whatever. I'm out here looking at my properties like they're an employee, right? Is that employee working hard enough? Are they doing the right KPIs? Are they reaching the things they need to do? Those properties, unlike an employee, right? I've got hundreds of staff, right? How they get sick and all that sort of stuff. My properties, they work 24/7, right? They're constantly bringing in cash flow. They're constantly going up. And what doesn't matter what's happening in my life, those properties are working and growing and doing what they need to do. So think of it differently. Have that strategy. And ultimately, like, if you're thinking, I'm going to retire at 60, quite often I'll speak to someone that, like, I'll ask them, what are your goals? And they'll be like, on a map session, right? For those of you that don't know, you might be listening to these podcasts going, I love listening to Birchy when I go to bed or driving in my car or whatever. I run an investment firm. We help people build wealth in properties. And the first step is having a discovery session with my team. But after that, we have a map session. And a map session is when I'll sit down with my investors or have a chat with my investors and then work out, what is that end goal going to look like, and then reverse engineer a plan on how to get you there. And quite often, I reckon half the time I speak to people, like, they might be 30 or 40 years old or whatever, 20 years old, and they're like, oh, if I can retire by 50 or 60, that'd be great. I'd like to retire at 60 with 5 houses. And it's like, you're only 30, dude, right? Like, that's half your life again, right? That's like the good part of your life between 20 and 30. You've got 3 of them to go to get there. 30 years is a long time to be able to get there. And most people are still thinking, doesn't matter how educated or how much property you're thinking or that, a lot of people are still thinking, I can't retire before 60 or I can't retire before 70. Why do you want to wait that long for? Why not bring it forward? And I feel like, when you look at the average, there's some stats I've got here. The average super balance between the ages 60 to 64 years old is 204,000 for women and 338,000 for men, right? And the reason for women is generally, I'd imagine, because they might take a few years off for children and raising the family. But if you are sitting there thinking, okay, think about your life, right? If you're on 100 grand a year income or 50 grand a year, whatever the income is, if you're on 100 grand a year income and you got 300 grand in your super when you retire, that's really 3 years of your current wage that you're going to be able to get until you're broke, right? If you want to take a 10% return, let's say you got yourself a great 10% return and you got 300 grand in your super, that's going to give you 30 grand a year. What are you going to do for the other 70? Oh, I'll get by. I'll sell my house. I'll downsize. You should be enjoying your life now, right? You just worked all this time. What are you going to be doing for it? So, don't get caught up in that, oh, let's work in 40 years and then the super will look after me. Because now they're talking about, oh, we'll tax people's unrealized gains in their super. You've got a bit too much in your super. We want to try and take that off you, right? It's a fucking joke, right? The system is a scam. But there's ways to get out. There's lots of people that are out of that system. But I think it all starts with changing the story and changing your mindset and changing your view of it, right? I see so many people run to every sort of government department like they're the hero to save them, where reality of it is that it's like you're running into the arms of your abuser, right? And it's like they're trying to screw you, right, constantly. And you're hoping that they're going to come and save you, but they're not. No one's going to come and save you. And the world before you were born was here. Before I was born was here. People were doing lots of shit, and it will be here after we've gone. So the only real person that's going to come and save you is the day that you step up and the day that you go, hey, I'm not going to stand for this anymore. I don't want to be trapped in this slavery system. I want to be able to step up and get out. And I guess I've gone on a bit of a rant on a few of these points, but I think it's important to wake up from that, because we're all told that the society just pressures us to, unconventional thinking. I've copped it my whole life, right? It doesn't matter who it is that, loves me or cares about me that's telling me the advice. It doesn't need to come from some, outside third person jealousy narcissist that's coming to attack you. It could come from the people that care about you the most that's giving you this advice. Oh, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that. Is that the right advice? Right? Maybe it is, right? Maybe, right? But whatever result you end up on is based on all the decisions and actions and choices that you make. So make sure when you are making decisions, it could just be you're going to get distracted by your mates and go to the pub this weekend, right? You could be doing something to improve your position. It could be that you're going to go on that holiday. Well, then that could be taking away from something else. It could be some bullshit you're wasting your time on or negative energy that's in your life that you're like, hey, that's holding me back from my goals. So those decisions that you have with all the time that you have, you're trying to get time back. You're trading time for time. Most people are not thinking about the time or the effort or the energy that they're trapped into. They're thinking about it as dollars, and they've recreated the concept of time and turned it into dollars and commoditized that, which has made ultimately all of us a commodity in the slavery system. So on that note, folks, I'm going to leave it as that. If you want to try and escape from the system, you don't want to get screwed by the system, you want to be able to take charge for your own personal life, reach out to us. We're doing it every day for ourselves and for our clients. 1300-367-925, admin@B.Invested.com.au. And if you like these videos, share, subscribe, and leave some comments. That'd be great. Catch us every Thursday on Google Play, Apple Play, Spotify, and YouTube. Bye for now.
Like Bilal said, man, we stuck in the matrix. This my advice, don't care if you take it.